When we first moved here around 35 years ago, there was no garden here really. There was no light and there was no shade and there was no shelter. And it was really hit massively by the southwesterly winds. So what I did was I planted shelter belts, I planted hedges and I planted hazels. I had a massive block of hazels that ran from the field up to the walled garden to give more shelter from the southwesterly winds. But now, 34 or so years on, there was too much shade, not enough light for me to grow wonderful plants. And also I was very busy when I first came here. I had a young family, and so the area which was just hazels with ivy and comfrey underneath, was no maintenance at all virtually. But then I wanted to try more horticulture and I wanted to develop my rose meadow. And so I've cleared away a lot of the hazels, I've cleared away most of the ivy, a lot of the comfrey, and my embryonic rose meadow is now developing well. Roses are still very tiny. I took them from cuttings, if you remember, she showed on the video maybe 2 years ago, but some of them are sort of a metre high now and flowering really nicely. And hopefully over the next 10 years it's going to get much, much better. So here you can see I've probably got about 7 hazel plants left, and I've actually just trained the main branches. Bearing in mind these plants were cut totally down to the ground about a year or so ago, maybe 2, and so now they grow amazingly fast when they're coppiced. I've taken a few main shoots and I've tied them in over the metal archways. Now I've also thinned out the shoots massively, and hazel always grow from the bottom. This type of Corylus avellana always shoots up from the bottom. If you want a single stem hazel that doesn't tend to do this, then the Turkish hazel is the one for you. But so what I do with the hedge cutter is I just cut the rest of the little wisps that come up, because I want the see-through element. I want to see from that section to that section, but I still like framing the walkway down to the field. So it's a bit of just suck it and see really how well this is going to work. At the moment they don't meet over the top, so it doesn't have the full effect. But I think next year I'm hoping they will clothe the tunnels totally with see-through elements beneath. You'll have the framing of the walkway, but you'll still let the 2 areas of rose meadow interconnect. And they are very easy to tie in, and any spare shoots that I don't like that go the wrong way, I just snip off and I give them to the cows in the field, and they really enjoy the hazels. Now, if you want to see what it was like 20 years ago, you can watch the next bit of the video where you can see me and Adam Frost and I, making this gravel walkway with a self-binding gravel. You can see us putting in the timber edge, and then you see Kate and I putting in these metal arches and training the massive hazels which were on both sides over the archway. And it did look pretty good, I have to say. I was pleased with it. But now, as I said, I wanted more light to this area so I could develop the rose meadow, try out all different plants, and just have a totally different bit of garden. When you've been in one garden for so many years, it's lovely to be able to ring the changes and take the areas on. And I think that's the whole fun of gardening. My garden will never be finished. I will always want to take it on. Britain's indigenous hazel is one of my favourite trees. It's fast growing, great for wildlife, and because its stems are so pliable, it's a wonderful material to use in garden design. I planted these hazels about 6 years ago because this garden is a really hot, dry, sunny garden, and I just wanted some shade, and they do create this lovely dappled shade. The other reason is it's also a very windy garden, and this sort of mini shelter belt actually filters the wind and provides a lovely sheltered place on the other side. And the main reason probably is because I love hazelnuts, and I planted many different varieties, and they are so good, and we get about 2 or 3 bucketfuls at least a season, and as they get bigger and better we'll get far, far more. They also give you these lovely hazel sticks, so I cut them down every so often, and I actually use those for the runner beans and for trailing up climbing plants and things like that. At the moment they do form a lovely tunnel quite naturally, but I want to accentuate that and enhance it. So I'm actually going to put in some metal structures to make more of a design feature here. The grass is really suffering in this area now. It's suffering from lack of light and lack of moisture. The checkerboard looks a bit tatty. This is suffering too. So I'm going to tidy the whole area up and put in a proper path.
Although this was not a huge area, I hoped Adam and his precious digger would make light work of it.
These levels, Adam, they're a bit up and down and all over the place, aren't they? Can we cope with this?
Yeah, they'll be fine.
We've got these nice sinuous curves. I really want to keep to those. Can we follow that?
Yeah. So what we're edging with then?
We've got 150 mil deep because you've got 50 mil of gravel going on to 100 millimetre of hardcore. So we need to contain all that with the timber edging and pick up this nice curve.
Yeah, that'll be all right. I'll just put a few cuts in and we'll be able to bend it and work your shape nicely.
And then the metal arches,
Right.
we'll just set them well back into the hazel so they form a nice little tunnel.
Yeah. How many of those you got?
I've got 6 of those to bash in.
Right. And you think they'll be sturdy enough?
If we set them in nice and steady, we won't be swinging from them.
Right. Yeah. Come on then, missus. Come on.
What do you mean? Come on, you're not ready for me yet.
So I have. We ain't got all day.
Great, thank you.
Next step was to put in the edging, for which we used 3-metre lengths of tannalised timber. Nothing fancy needed here, as I wanted the existing surrounding woodland planting to eventually creep over the side.
Here we're making the timber bend round the corners to follow the lovely swooping curves. And to do that, what we've done is just cut slots in the back of the timber, and they go all the way down the width of the timber, and they're about in inch intervals. And that way you can just push it round the corner. If you've got a tighter curve, then it's much more difficult. You can get it round up to about a 3-metre radius, but then you need to take the slot right back to halfway through the width of the timber, and you need them at much closer centre, say up to about 1/2 inch. But you've got to bear in mind, if you do this, you are actually weakening the timber because you're cutting through the protection, the tunnellised protection of it.
With the edging in place, it was time to get the hardcore in, and that meant even more barrowing.
There you are, just where you wanted it.
Fantastic. Just the rest to do.
Yeah, another 25 and you'll be done, boy.
Yeah.
Whackering down the hardcore is essential to prepare it for the all-important top layer.
We're now laying the surface of this bound gravel path. Bound gravel is fixed gravel. It doesn't kick around like ordinary loose gravel. I first saw this in the Oxford colleges. They've used it there for hundreds of years, and it occurs naturally in the quarries all around Oxford, and it's called as dug gravel, which is, as the name implies, it's how it occurs in the ground. And it's got special bits of fines or clay particles and hoggins in it, so that when you actually lay it and whacker it down with a whacker plate, it doesn't pick up on your heels and come into the house. It really is a fantastic surface.
A little leftover gravel topping was used to finish off the checkerboard, and the path was ready for the icing on the cake, the arches.
These arches are custom made by my local blacksmith, and they cost me 30 quid a throw. I think that's excellent value because that way you can get the exact size and shape you want. I've chosen a Gothic arch here because I think that reflects the natural shape that the hazel makes as it grows over the pathway.
Our soil is so stony, we just rammed the arches in.
When I looked at them initially, I thought they were too wide for the path, but I like the way they're set into the hazel, so it's sort of half hazel, half bar, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're not too much of a statement.
No, they'll be fine. They look. I think they look good. They went in a lot easier than those stakes did yesterday.
Yeah, it's the easiest part of the job. Usually the last part of the job's the worst, isn't it? But
Well,
this
yeah,
time
that's
it's
right.
gone in like a piece of
I'm
cake.
sure once you get the bars through and get hazel trimmed back and tied in.
Yeah, look really nice.
To help me tie in the hazel, I'd enlisted the aid of Kate the gardener, who's helped me with many a project over the years. And And to give our arches more stability, we added horizontal bars, which would also be used to train the stems.
Are you in your end or not?
Only Jack.
Right, I'm going to get a bit of wire and
It's really huge, that first one.
yes.
So, I mean, we won't be careful. I suppose it doesn't matter.
No, I'll cut him back later properly. The idea is for all the metalwork to come on the inside of the hazel arches. But here, where I've got a really thick limb, I've actually threaded the bar behind it. And that's for a few reasons. Mainly because if I remove this limb now, it's going to make it look very bare and open. Also, it's not the best time of year to cut these major limbs. You should really do that when the plant is dormant.
The best time to train hazel is towards the beginning of the growing season, when the wood is green and supple.
Should you go for the tops and be dangerous?
Yes, no.
That's good. It makes it look furnished. We can crimp up his top bit. We want the hazel leaves to be nice and evenly spaced out over the metal archways. Here, where we've tied them at the top, they look bunched up and unnatural. So I'm just going to take out the side shoots, and that will just thin out the growth and look a lot better.
I think it's going to be nice to walk down here in the summer and have patches of sunlight, and the rest will be
Shade, yeah,
yes.
it's mixed. I think we've successfully transformed this rather scruffy little backwater into an enticing path which gives this part of the garden some real structure. I've never seen hazels used like this before. Laburnums, pears and apples are much more common over tunnels, but I think the hazel works really well. And as the canopy thickens up and becomes bedded in, it will just get better and better.